Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. We have a beautiful audience from all across the globe, fellow Sri Lankans as well as foreigners. Thank you so much for joining in. We have people from Canberra, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, Colombo, Negombo, Kandy, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, as well as Oman. It's so good to see you this afternoon, evening from wherever you are in the world. The whole purpose of this webinar is to give you some positivity, infuse some positivity into your bodies, to your souls in these difficult times in Sri Lanka. At the same time, we'll be talking about the real estate aspect of it, the future of real estate and the outlook of Sri Lanka. And at the same time, we'll be having a roundtable discussion with some of the giants in the industry. And I can guarantee you that you're in for a treat. When we were planning for this webinar, the key question we were trying to answer is whether the Sri Lankan context is a paradox right now or Sri Lanka is still a paradise. Let me give you a quick story. I was fortunate enough to be in Colombo last 2.5 weeks ago. Everyone thought I was crazy to go at the time, which I didn't think it was. And I was also fortunate enough to have a car with a tank full of petrol so that I could drive around, which was like gold at the time. And I was also fortunate to visit Valigama and the down south, the coastal areas. I was overlooking the Valigama Bay and I was answering myself the exact same question. Are we in a mess or is Sri Lanka still a paradise? When you look at the beautiful bay, which was in front of me, the conclusion was Sri Lanka is truly still a paradise. I can guarantee you that each and every one of you would agree with me with the same thing. I'm sure you would have been yelling and scolding all the politicians of Sri Lanka, but down under, down inside you, you always have a soft spot to Sri Lanka. If you put your investment hat on, 95% of you might think this is not the best time to invest in Sri Lanka. And 5% of you might think this is the exact right time to invest in Sri Lanka because you should never miss a crisis. And if you look at all the best investors in the world, that's exactly what they do. Let me put some perspective into this. What I would look at is, given an investment, what is the upside? What is the downside? If the downside happens, what's going to be my impact? So if you invest in Sri Lanka right now, I personally think things will turn around. I'm extremely confident things will turn around. But 99% of you might think otherwise. If things turn around, the upside is you will get a pretty good return on your investment. The downside is you might not get a good return, but you'll still have a good asset. So what's the impact? You might still have a decent house, beautifully designed house, as long as it's a beautifully designed house which you like, where you can go and live in. And if it is managed properly in a professional manner, the impact is less. You have an asset in Sri Lanka for you to go and enjoy yourself. With this in mind, let me introduce the team over here. My name is Navin Silva from Grid Property Group. What we do as a business is we work with investors all across the globe and help them create wealth using investment properties at the right locations. And mind you, we do not work with every developer. We are extremely careful in selecting the right developer to work with. Especially in Sri Lanka, we are working with Crystal Property Group because of many reasons. They are futuristic. They know what they're doing. They have delivered. They have runs on the board. They have a dynamic team who goes beyond the call of duty to make things happen. Along with me, we have Dr. Dinuk Jayasuriya, who is the founder of Crystal Property Group. We have the chairman of Crystal Property Group, Kumar Sangakkara, he needs no introduction to all Sri Lankans all over the world. We have Reza, Magdon, Ismail, who is the CEO and director of Crystal Property Group. Welcome aboard, guys. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Navin.
Thanks, Navin, for
Thanks for having us, Navin. Thank you.
No problem at all. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a quick discussion about the real estate market, about Crystal Property Group, and then we'll dive into some of the products and some of the intel which these guys have to offer. The first question is for you, Dinuk. You've been in Australia. You have been in Australia for most of the time than most of us, many years. And being an Australian for such a long time, and given what's happening in Sri Lanka right now, you decided to invest some time ago. And why do you think you did that? And more importantly, as an investor who would like to invest in Sri Lanka, what would be some pieces of advice from you, Dinuk?
So thanks, Navin. Thanks everyone for joining this call, and thanks, I suppose, to Grit for organizing everything. So in terms of your question, yes, I've lived in Australia since 1984. I founded CPG in 2016, and I brought my friends Brett Negus and Michael Burrell, two Australians, onto our path. And that was a time when Sri Lanka's trajectory was looking rosy. Tourism was booming, hotel occupancy was over 75%, room rate nights were high, and land prices were very low by international standards. The risk return offerings in Sri Lanka seemed greater than Australia. So surely Sri Lanka in 2016 was worth the punt. And then what happened was 2018 constitutional crisis, 2019 Easter bombings, 2020 to 2021 COVID and an oil spill, and now 2022 an economic crisis. Quite frankly, calamity after calamity after calamity at a macro level. And that doesn't even touch on the micro level operational and administrative issues I've faced. Before 2016, I hadn't worked and done business in Sri Lanka. And then at that time when I did it, it was very challenging. Now the questions that most of you would be asking is, so why invest in Sri Lanka, given everything that's happened today? So I'm going to be frank with you. If you're planning on starting your own business in Sri Lanka, I would think twice about doing it without a trusted, proven local partner. There are just way too many variables, and there were so many things that we had to go through that as a foreigner coming into Sri Lanka, we wouldn't have even anticipated previously. So the key reason why CPG is where it is. Sorry, the key reason.
Please be on mute.
The key reason why CPG is where it is today is essentially because of our competent and trustworthy, amazing local team. Led by two of my friends, dear friends, Reza and Kumar. And I suppose the proof really is in the pudding when you're looking at CPG as an entity. So it just started with myself and Brett, and now we have almost 100 staff. Our first condo hotel, Crystal Sands, was the last such project to start, and it's the only one, and this is something I suppose individually we're proud of, but as a country it's unfortunate, but we're the only one to finish in terms of a condo hotel project down south, and let alone be fully operational as a fully serviced condo hotel. And in terms of the quality of it, don't take my word for it. I encourage you to Google Crystal Sands. What you see behind me is a rooftop swimming pool. That's an actual image of it. And read the reviews. Our second project, the 6, is on track to be completed by mid next year. And across both projects, we only actually have 3 more for sale. We launched our third project, Diggina by CPG, last year. So as a foreigner coming in here, Navin, I think a key question that you have to ask is, is it worth, can CPG deliver this? And I suppose in my opinion, it isn't whether CPG can complete a high quality holiday home managed by a reputable hotel provider. We can do that, we've proven it. The pertinent question is, in this volatile macroeconomic environment, will such a product actually provide me with a home and generate a long-term return? I think those are the two questions. So I suppose we don't have a huge set of data, but as an investor, from 1st of May until now, Crystal Sands, which is a fully operational condo hotel, it's generated a 0.26% LKR return on about 11% occupancy. I mean, this isn't much. It's not a huge return, but when there are no tourists in Sri Lanka and hotel providers are losing money, we're above breaking even. So that's an example of the downside. When you look at the upside, at 2016 occupancy levels, if we had those same occupancies now, at 75%, Crystal Sands owners will be looking at over a 10% USD. So then you ask, okay, what about my capital gains? What would that look like? Again, if we're looking at a comparable apartment from 2020 to 2022 at Crystal Sands, you're looking at about a 10% USD appreciation in price in terms of what we sold then and what we sell now. The 6 CPG's second project, it's appreciated over 16% in 1 year, in 2021. So between the first and the last villa sale. So I suppose that's the current environment with capital gains and rental return. Now imagine a scenario where Sri Lanka realizes its potential as a tourism destination. I mean, I think a lot of us know what the potential is, and it is there. Other countries like Indonesia have realized it. But the capital gains, I suppose, from our perspective with our third project, Digana by CPG, which is yet to start, and we've done pre-sales in Sri Lanka, that's, I suppose, the potential in terms of the largest capital gains. So just before I go back to you, Navin, I suppose I go back to my decision in 2016 when many people said I was taking too much risk investing in Sri Lanka. Compared to then, I look at Sri Lanka's future, and yes, I mean, you can't lie that there is downside potential. Potentially politically, economically, Sri Lanka could deteriorate further. But then I also see upside. I view that 2019 Easter bombings, COVID and debt crisis as unusual shocks to the macroeconomic climate of Sri Lanka. The past is gone. I mean, what does the future hold? Let's look at ourselves a year, 2 years from now. And my view is that we're more likely than not to achieve some sort of political stability in the next 2.5 years. And we're very likely to receive an IMF bailout. So just like Asian countries in 1997, after the financial crisis, Sri Lanka will bounce back after it receives this bailout. And then if you wait until, and this is the key thing, I suppose, in terms of an investor, if you wait until tourism bounces back in Sri Lanka in terms of apartments and villas, it'll obviously cost more because people can spruik these higher returns. I suppose if you're an investor looking at investing, this could be a good time to do so. So I hope I answered your question there, Navin.
Yeah, for sure. That was great insights, Dinuk. Thank you so much. Kumar, we are so proud of what you achieved in the cricketing field. In the real estate field, I know you have been investing and making really good investments. What made you embark on this journey with Crystal Property Group?
Thank you for having us, and thank you for the question, and thank you to everyone who have joined us from around the world at various different times. Yeah, so I mean, like you said, my background has been in sport for so many years, and not really in business as such. But throughout my cricketing years, I managed to cultivate various friends from various walks of life in various professions. I've always had a passion for real estate, architecture and design. And a lot of my friends, whether they were from school or after through my cricketing connections, have had special relevance in those particular fields as well, architects, designers, artists, etc. And I've always been really interested in Sri Lankan design, Sri Lankan art, Sri Lankan artists, our culture, and the evolution of that through the years. My eye, when it comes to real estate, and my kind of focus was always to approach something, or whether it's land or development, as to, from a very personal point of view, would I love to live here? It was never about, oh, could I make money out of this? Which is sometimes I have been advised before that probably not the right way to go around it, but I haven't gone wrong with any of those, simply because I always look at it that if you have that personal perspective on what you do, a passion for it, I think it informs the eye and the mind to make the right choices. When it comes to Crystal Sands, it was basically a very chance meeting I had with Dinuk, Jayasuriya, who just spoke earlier. He had come down from Australia. He had 3 daughters who were going to the same school as my children. He had met my wife before. He knew another friend of mine. And he wanted to know whether he could meet me and have a chat about his interests and the potential of doing something in Sri Lanka from various perspectives, business, charity, etc. So my wife spoke to me and said, you should really take this meeting. And I went to school. We had a coffee together. And apart from what Dinuk spoke about, and he spoke about a lot of different things that were possible in terms of benefiting Sri Lanka. He spoke not only about business and the commercial viability, the financial viability and profits, etc., but he spoke more intensely and more passionately about benefiting the country and our communities, what this could really entail for Sri Lanka in raising its profile, in giving back to the community, in giving employment, attracting foreign investment, all of the things that I think many Sri Lankans are very passionate about. And that's what really struck me, and the honesty and integrity with which he spoke. And by the end of the conversation, I had actually agreed, without even thinking twice, to invest with him in Crystal Sands. And from there onwards, I met Reza. He's been in real estate for many, many years. He had already delivered a premium product that was sold out. He had his own team in terms of project management and real estate ventures. And I met Reza, and I found that same like-mindedness in him and his team. We had breakfast together, our families met, and what started off as a business relationship very soon cemented into a very strong and very close friendship. And that was really the starting point, having like-minded people with a vision, a similar sharing of a vision, but the ability to have relevant expertise in the fields, the passion and the commitment that was needed to do something that was different. The same products or the same ventures in terms of real estate, but do it in such a manner that we just don't deliver something to the customer in terms of looking for profit, but deliver something that we are actually very, very proud of and can stand by for the long term. And from then onwards, we started looking for like-minded people, because I think one of the greatest investments that we've done at CPG is we've invested in the right people. We've looked for expertise, we looked for capability, we looked for that sharing of vision, and we've looked for that passion that they've had for what they do, because this is not going to be an 8-to-5 job, and our team understands it. Once we start something, we are personally invested in it, and we really like to follow through as to its final conclusion and beyond, because you would realize when Reza speaks after I do as CEO and partner, that we stay in our projects. We keep inventory for ourselves, because that is how committed we are. That is how much we believe in our own projects and our own capabilities to deliver the best for our customers. We've extended our core group, not just in terms of project management and the necessary expertise to deal with projects, but also in terms of architecture and design. Chamika Dialvis, who's been at school with me, a very close friend, again, a premier architect, a very forward-thinking, progressive, absolutely brilliant in design and ability and capability, joined us from the start of, through the middle of Crystal Sands that we've delivered. He designed the 6, and he designed Digana, the background where you see behind me is Digana, our project that we are about to launch. And when I say friends and like-minded, it is not something, a place where we're just very chummy and friendly and everything's hunky-dory. We are very critical about ourselves. We challenge ourselves to do a lot better. We challenge our teams to be the best that they can be, and we are constantly evolving. In terms of Sri Lanka now, I think Dinuk gave a very realistic, very honest representation of Sri Lanka as now. And that is another thing that we really want to be upfront with our investors, with our clients, potential and current, because our job is to not gloss over the realities. Our job is to tell you what the realities are. And our job is to tell you how capable we are of navigating those realities, of coming to terms with them, solving those problems, and still deliver the best that is out there for our customers and investors. In terms of why CPG and the future of Sri Lanka, I think the future of Sri Lanka, in terms of realizing its potential, will get there. It's a time of political instability. I believe that will be sorted. It will take some time, of course. It will take a special effort, but I think definitely that will happen. The financial bailout, the bridge financing, assistance from friendly countries, the change of system, all of those things are things that I believe that Sri Lanka will truly realize. And once that is set, I think the upside is obvious for everyone to see. There will be a great focus on the rebuilding and the expansion of the tourism industry, the attraction of tourists into Sri Lanka, the ease of doing business as a foreigner into Sri Lanka, from repatriation of your funds to making sure that your investment is secure. I think there will be a lot of special attention paid to those areas. And in terms of Crystal Property Group, what are our capabilities? We have a fantastic team. We have a family atmosphere. We are a group of like-minded people who are out here to do the best that we can for our investors and for the communities and for Sri Lanka as a country. We have teams in-house that have the capability and have shown the capability, because, as Dinuk said, we have started and delivered Crystal Sands through absolute volatility. We started and are halfway through the 6 at Midigama, and we are on track. And again, we have sold through volatility. We have increased investor confidence in our abilities through volatility. And right now, we have launched and we are about to break ground at Digana in Kandy. And again, what you can see is that we've had repeat investors, repeat customers, repeat partners through all of these projects, because once they've seen and understood our ethos, they've always partnered with us for the long term as well. And that shows a huge amount of confidence in our ability in terms of delivering a premium product. We're also not just focused on making a buck. We are definitely going to make a return for our investors, for our customers, but as a company, we have a commitment far beyond that. We want to deeply impact the communities that we work with. We want to raise the profile of Sri Lanka as a tourist destination. We want to be the premier, #1 company in terms of leisure-based real estate developments. And we, with our foundations, with our charities, we want to make a tangible contribution to the communities where our developments sit, and to partner with them so that not just enhance the growth of the company, but enhance the growth of those communities, and to attract customers, investment, foreign currency into Sri Lanka, and for customers around the world to understand that coming to Sri Lanka and doing business in terms of real estate and investing in real estate, there is no better partner than Crystal Property Group, because we have the capacity, we have the bandwidth, we have delivered, and we are passionate, committed, and we're a company that runs on relationship building, on delivering premium products, on staying with our customers for the long term, and that we operate with integrity.
Well, thank you so much, Kumar. That's such a beautiful story and inspiring story. I think I took away a few points there. One is the resilience of the team, regardless of the situation, to keep moving on. And number 2 is draw a line in the sand and look up to the future. What has happened, but as a team, that's amazing.
Just one more thing I would like to add there, Navin, is that we don't roll from one project to the other. Each project is ring-fenced in terms of finance and commitment. And that is another very unique differentiator when it comes to Crystal Property Group.
Sure, for sure thing. Thank you so much, Kumar. Reza, this is probably for you. You're talking about the leisure-based real estate in Sri Lanka. What do you foresee in the future for leisure-based real estate in Sri Lanka? Reza, you're on mute.
Sorry, guys. Thanks, Navin. Thanks for the introduction. And also thanks to everyone who's joined this call. Thank you to Grit for organizing this event for us. And we were very keen to obviously share with all of you the story. And so Navin, coming back to your, I guess, to your question in terms of where do we see leisure-based real estate in Sri Lanka? As mentioned by Dinuk in his opening remarks, Sri Lankan tourism in 2016 was on an upward trajectory. And this was the case up until 2018. In 2018, Sri Lanka achieved its highest ever tourism inflow of 2.3 million tourists and was voted Lonely Planet's #1 country to visit for in 2019. At CPG, we always strongly believe and continue to believe that the unfortunate global and local economic shocks we faced post-2019 are temporary. And in a couple of years, the country will continue on an upward trajectory and tourism will come back. So with that said, so leisure-based real estate in Sri Lanka, we feel will be a direct beneficiary of that. That is the opportunity that Dinuk and ourselves saw in 2016, 17, 18. And that potential is there. And CPG's focus is really to establish our brand identity that will establish ourselves as a premier player in that space. Again, to enable that, CPG has created a unique resort residence model, and Crystal Sands, the 6th, and Digana by CPG are the first in a future series of developments that will follow. With that said, I think, Navin, you've put the presentation up. So I just wanted to give our audience a little perspective in terms of the current CPG portfolio. So as everyone mentioned, we have Crystal Sands, which is complete. We have the 6th, which is under construction. We have Digana by CPG, which we launched in December last year, and we expect to start to break ground in a couple of months. And we do have a 4th project in mind. We actually have the land secured. It's on the iconic Waligama Bay, Navin, that you mentioned. So we have a large parcel of land, and we're in the process of actually conceptualizing something very iconic in terms of a condo-based project, similar to Crystal Sands, but here we have a much larger piece of land. We have 6.5 acres of land, and we're looking to do around 90 to 100 condos on that piece of land, along with a beach club and also a number of other ancillary services. So can we go on to the next slide so that I can just kind of give everyone an idea in terms of each of us. So, okay, so we mentioned the resort residence model, and I think this is a key element for any of our investors or audience or anyone who wants to know about CPG to understand. Like Kumar said, we are in this, we're not a typical developer. We don't build, deliver, and move out. We build, deliver, manage, and as Kumar and Dinuk both mentioned, we also hold inventory in all of our projects. So the projects are designed to be like Kumar mentioned, essentially the first thing we want it to feel like is like a home. So it's designed with the residence, with the proportions of a luxury resort. So essentially it's your home, but we have all the services that you'd expect if you were to go and if you wanted to have resort style living. The projects are delivered in the sense that buyers can obviously choose to stay in it. They can choose to use it as a primary residence. They can choose to use it as a holiday home. And in any of those scenarios, we provide you a fully managed option. So essentially full service hotel is kind of full service resort management is what we provide. Again, and then obviously underpinning that is that we are growing our portfolio and we are growing a hotel brand. And with that obviously comes, so for example, at CPG, we've made the investment. We have a chief operating officer overseeing the our resort brands. We have our own head of sales and marketing, again, who looks through the entire property from a rental perspective, and not necessarily, we have a separate sales team for selling our inventory. So we've made those investments. We have over close to 75 employees at Crystal Sands, from a GM to your resort managers to what have you, housekeeping. So we're really investing in all this infrastructure. And the interesting thing is, I'll get into that a little later, but all this infrastructure is an investment made by us. We don't expect our investors to invest in that. That is our commitment to these investors. And that is essentially how our model works. And like I mentioned, so we provide all services across operations, marketing, maintenance. So we provide you a truly turnkey product with no management hassle. And how we are incentivized to operate this model is we essentially take a percentage of the revenue that is generated in the property. And we only take revenue if we are able to earn revenue for you. So for example, if we are not able to rent out your villa or your unit, CPG takes nothing. But if we are, we have a fixed percentage, which is all broken up and very clearly illustrated to our investors. So we essentially take around 60% of any revenue generated by your unit. And that includes all your sales, marketing, administration, your utilities, which are metered. So all that comes to us. And then you get essentially 40% back to you of any revenue generated. And that 40% is broadly in line with how you'd expect the best hotels internationally in terms of a GOP margin that they would deliver. So from an investment perspective, also, it makes a lot of sense. If we can go over to the next slide. Yeah, so, okay, so how, in terms of purely an investment structure, what are you looking at your returns? So obviously you have the capital appreciation of your asset, which kind of Dinuk alluded to in terms of what kind of capital appreciation we've seen so far at CPG. And then obviously you have the tourism revenue, which is the yield that continues to generate out of your asset. So CPGs, again, like we said, it's holiday homes, it's resorts, we're investing in restaurants, spas, and travel. So we're really building this holistic hotel brand that will essentially provide a great experience to our customers while also driving an attractive yield to them. All right, so just in terms of kind of our specific, like I said, we have 3 projects in our portfolio. Crystal Sands is the one we have complete right now. It's fully complete. We've got 25 fully serviced condos there. In terms of it's generating ROI now, yes, as Dinuk mentioned, the ROI is very minimal given that the current context of what we're going through. But the real takeaway there is that despite of everything we're facing, we're still breaking even. So our investors are essentially not taking on the risk of the investments we've made as the hotel managers. We are taking that risk on. And that is our commitment to our investors, to make sure that we do everything we can to drive an attractive yield to them. So the apartments, every apartment has its own plunge pool. It's a variety of 2 and 3 bedroom sky villas. All CPG projects are turnkey. So you get everything from your furniture to your cutlery, to your crockery, to your linen. Everything is provided within our sales price. Like Dinuk said, we have 2 units available for sale at Crystal Sands, and on average we're looking at a $250 per square foot sales price. Other amenities is we have our restaurant and bar, which is called the Tempest Restaurant. Obviously it's a beachfront property, gymnasium. So this is just some perspective. So these are actual images of our completed product. What you see at first is the lawn that goes out onto the beach. Then you have your reception lobby. And then you have the living area that's a typical 2-bedroom apartment. What you see in these images is exactly what you get because, like I said, it's all turnkey. Everything is included in your price. And if we can go to the next slide. So we have the Tempest restaurant and bar on our rooftop. This is also, to me, it's actually, we're putting a lot of passion into branding this restaurant. It functions as an all-day restaurant right now. But we're reworking our concept and we're going to launch a restaurant and tapas bar, Pan-Asian themed. With really, we want this restaurant to be benchmark and iconic. on the South Coast. And this is kind of, again, the passion that we bring to everything that we do. It's just not about building apartments and selling it. It's about what experiences we can provide within the projects that we do. And providing a great level of F&B is something very interesting to us. And this will continue to go across all our projects in our portfolio. We have the 6, as it's the first of its kind in Asia. Here we've designed 6 ultra luxury villas. It's 6 ultra luxury 4-bedroom villas. They're all beachfront, located in Midigama, which is the bay right next to Ballygamma. It's an iconic and very famous surf location. So we got, like, as I mentioned, 6 villas here. We've sold 4. We're looking to sell 1 more. They're priced at about $2 million. It's 8,000 square feet of built-up area. It includes your own private pool, plunge pool on your at your master bedroom, and again, fully furnished and turnkey. Private chef, and again, we provide a fully serviced managed option as we do across all our properties. So this gives you a little bit of a feel in terms of the interior perspective of the villas. So they've all been designed to a different look and feel. So we've themed them across 6 beaches, across 6 iconic international beaches, but inherently with the Sri Lankan heritage. So it's underpinned with the Sri Lankan heritage, but an international flavor. None of these villas are identical, so they all have a unique design and interior philosophy, and they have this ranging color palette, which I'm hopeful you can see across the images that we've shared. In terms of progress, this project is 50% complete, and we are on track to deliver this by August 2023. We've assessed all the volatility in the market, and we are confident that despite all that volatility, that like we did with Crystal Sands, we will deliver this on time and on spec and to the expected level of our clients. And finally, I think we can go on to Digana. So Digana is the latest project in our portfolio. This is something we launched in December last year. We had a great response obviously at launch. We've sold the majority of these villas, but we have 6 villas available for sale. They're priced between $625,000 to $1 million. And I think Digana also has a lot of upside in the sense that everyone knows, look, it's got the Victoria Golf Course, which is managed by Troon, which is an international, it's the #1 luxury international golf brand in the world. They've been doing a good job at Victoria. And again, once tourism comes back, we see that becoming a very sought after destination. It has seaplane access, which we will provide to our project as well, to Digana by CPG. It has obviously the Central Expressway under construction. There's obviously going to be some delays with the current, in terms of the current context of the country, but in 4 to 5 years, we expect that will be complete. And if you're looking at a 4 to 5 year horizon, and with in terms of the capital appreciation, you'll see in Digana, all you have to do is kind of compare what happened to the Golf Fort and the Southern Coast with the completion of the Southern Expressway, where you saw capital appreciation beyond 50 to 100% in terms of land values. So you're looking at, once the Central Expressway is completed, Digana is going to be a 2-hour drive from Colombo, from central Colombo. So we see a lot of upside potential for Digana. Again, as Dinuk and as Kumar alluded to, CPG's commitment is to deliver projects of great design and great style, to keep our commitment. And we are gearing these projects to have a great yield story. But obviously, for our investors, it's very important that they understand the downside and the upside in anything that we provide you. And I hope we've made that clear. And obviously, we're happy to take any questions that come on this group or at a later time, in terms of giving people a more micro level understanding of our projects and also what our perspective is for the industry. So thanks, Navin. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. Exceptional, unbelievable products. And it's as everyone said, it's unique, it's different, and it's well managed. More importantly, as a foreign investor, that's the main thing. Whatever the product you buy, if it's not very well managed, you lose out as an investor. Fantastic concept. Yeah. So we are opening up for questions by the audience. Please use the chat function. to ask any of your questions, and the team here will answer your questions. I already got one from Gavin from Colombo. You mentioned that the crystal sand is already done and the one in Midikama is already 50% done. How did you manage this to deliver these projects through COVID, as well as everything which is going on right now?
Rez, do you want to take that one, I reckon?
Yeah, I'll take that question. So yes, I mean, that's quite a good question, because it's a question that a lot of people ask us and a question that we've reflected on. It really comes down to, I mean, so I'll just give you a little background. When we started Crystal Sands, we planned to launch this in 2018. September was when we had planned to launch, 2018. And we'd obviously done a lot of work to get ready for this sales launch. And then at that time, unfortunately, we had the constitutional crisis that we were faced with. And then there was a lot of negative international press. And this essentially happened a few days before we had planned our launch date. So again, Dinuk, myself, and Brett, who was also one of our co-founders, we had a chat and we were like, okay, now, I mean, we're at these crossroads. What do we do? We've worked for the last 6 months to put this plan together. And are we going to wait? Are we going to move on it, or are we going to wait? And I think that really sets the kind of the spirit of CPG. And that first decision we made is really what kind of got the ball rolling for us. And we were like, I mean, we can control what we've done. We can't control the external factors. So, I mean, let's go for it. Let's go ahead. Let's go as planned. We went ahead. We launched the project. We were very fortunate that and surprised, to be honest, within the first week, we sold close to 50% of our inventory. And that really set the ball rolling for CPG. And then obviously okay, now we have to build these projects, and Crystal Sands, it was very obviously important. We've got validated our concept. Now it's time to deliver on the project. And then, I mean, needs no explanation, the volatility that we've had. We had the Easter bombings in 2019. We've had COVID in 2020. We've had constant political and economic instability through that process. We've had a Forex crisis. So how do you deliver a project that you've positioned as an international standard, international deliverable project? How do you actually deliver this, and how do you deliver it to the quality that you've said you would? It essentially it comes down to a few key things. I think the first part of it is the team that we've put together, this team that we have in terms of our project management, our procurement. This is a team that I and along a lot of us have worked together for the last 10 years. We've worked in different organizations, but then all kind of came together with CPG. And essentially having our own in-house project management and procurement team is really what allowed us to deliver Crystal Sands. And like Dinuk mentioned, like Kumar mentioned, we were the last to start, but the first to finish and the first to deliver a fully operational condo hotel on the beachfront in the South Coast. There are a number of our peers who started much before us and are yet to complete. So that's something for us to be very proud of. But at this, and obviously I put that down to that expertise of having an in-house project management and procurement team. Yep. In addition to that, obviously, we wouldn't be where we are if not for the support of the clients we have, right? I mean, we run a development which essentially is significantly dependent on a pre-sales model. So we go out there, we have concepts, we position those concepts, and we get sales in. And having supportive clients in that sense is extremely important to us. And all our clients, because of that forthrightness and us always being very clear about what we're trying to deliver and being clear and concise in our sales pitch, those clients have continuously been supportive of us throughout these difficult times, because from the start, they've understood what we're trying to deliver. They've bought into the principles of the company. And I always say, like CPG, I mean, we're not a large, in terms of inventory, we don't put out big projects. We're very niche and small and manageable number of units where we run like a family, and our clients are an extension of our family. And every one of them I trust has felt that, and that's the relationship we have with them. So they are supportive of us during the hard times, and they obviously they expect that we will deliver during the good times.
Yeah.
So having that is obviously a key element to why we were able to deliver on time and on expectation. In addition, obviously, we have a board of directors and shareholders who have always kind of set the mandate for us. So the board of our company, which obviously includes Kumar, Dinuk, Mahela, Nathan, Suin. So all our board members have always been very supportive of us, and they've always said, look, your mandate is to deliver these iconic projects, and the mandate is always to remember that the first thing we have to do is deliver and meet our clients' expectations. So like I said, we've had to make hard decisions in some of our projects. For example, there's been significant cost escalations, and really the mandate we have from the board today is park profit, just deliver. And that's a sense of reassurance for us as a management team, that we have that support from our board and from our shareholders, because to us, everything will be our reputation. And when we expect Sri Lanka to come out of this, and CPG will have this, we expect to have one of the strongest brand and reputations for delivering during tough times. So essentially, Navin, I think that's in a nutshell how we have kind of managed through this crisis and continue to manage through other crises.
Thanks, Reza. We have a whole lot of questions coming in. We have a question from Damesh De Silva. Does the cost per unit cover the management cost as well?
Shall I answer that?
Yeah, Rez, you go for that one.
Yeah. I may not have understood this question very clearly, but in terms of the cost of the unit, so what you pay for is essentially for us to deliver to you a turnkey product. Beyond that point, the management cost, so there are two elements to this. There's the hotel management side, which is where we provide you all the hotel management services. And that is essentially that you pay nothing unless we actually drive revenue for you. So payment for all the hotel staff, payment for all the sales and marketing, payment for all the housekeeping, payment for all, the F&B operations. All that is only charged based on occupancy and real revenue. Now you have a management fee, but that management fee is the typical management fee you'd have in any condo as an investor, right? So you have the management fee that you pay for, which is basically for the maintenance of your equipment, as well as kind of the common area charges, right? Like collecting your trash, cleaning your lobby. So that management fee you would have to pay. But that is typical of any apartment in Sri Lanka. Even if you own an apartment anywhere in Colombo, and even if you rented it out yourself, you as the owner are still liable to pay for that management fee. So that's essentially, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. This one probably is for you, Kumar. A question from Mark. What are your views on Sri Lankan tourism arrivals in the next 12 months? And do you think the fuel crisis will be behind us? I see some countries have advised not to travel recently.
Yeah, I think there have been travel advisories issued by a few countries just on the fact that there has been volatility politically. There has been a scarcity of supplies in terms of fuel and gas. But I would really like very much to say that there are quite a lot of people, expat friends of mine, going back to Sri Lanka, foreign friends of mine who are traveling to Sri Lanka from various countries, even at the moment, even with those travel advisories in place, because they've all visited before. They visited through the turmoil and the volatility, and they understand that Sri Lanka still is extremely safe, extremely welcoming to travel to, and you're still guaranteed a wonderful experience, and that the prioritization of tourism still continues, even though the arrivals are very low due to the volatility in place. I think when we do get over the crisis, and I'm reluctant to tell you of an exact timeline, like I said before, there needs to be a shift of perspective in terms of our politics and in terms of setting those conversations and those solutions in place with the IMF and our other international financing partners and countries for us to reach a time of complete stability, but that will happen. And the prioritization of tourism will continue to be at the forefront of attracting not just foreign investment, but foreign exchange into the country. And I believe that the mechanisms that will be put in place, which might also include real estate ownership and the ease of that ownership, will continue to be a focus point for the tourism promotion industry in the country. I'm not sure as to what the exact numbers of tourists might be, because if you take the economic conditions worldwide and internationally, and the advisories that have been put in place, there are a few barriers, but we believe very strongly that Sri Lanka will continue to attract tourists. And once stability is reached, I think you will see a large influx and a continuous upward trend in terms of tourist influx into the country.
Thanks, Kumar. We have a question from Adam. Will you enable a fractional investment model now you have established a captive investor pool?
Dinuk, I think you should answer that.
In terms of the fractional investment model, we haven't, it's not something that we've actively been thinking about, just because we've been able to, I suppose with Crystal Sands and the Six, we've made a lot of sales throughout the process. With Digana, we've done a lot of pre-sales. So like Reza said, I think we've got 6 more in Digana. So at the moment, that's a no. We haven't looked at fractional investment, and perhaps in the future, but yes, at the moment it's a no.
All right, got it. Another question from Gunit. Is the price fixed? Would there be a price increase due to current country's volatile situation and shortage of supplies? Is this buyer safeguarded contractually on fixed price?
You'll have to put you off mute, Rez.
You're on mute, Reza.
I'll answer that question. So our pricing is fixed. We're obviously pricing in USD. So our pricing is fixed and it's not variable, and it will not, I mean, essentially by pricing in USD, what we are allowing ourselves for is to hedge against the devaluation. And so you wouldn't, once you sign a US dollar contract, you wouldn't be saying, the contract would not allow for any movement in or increase in price.
Right. Another question from Swaroop. If an Indian purchases a property, which visa would he or she get?
I'll answer that as well. So at the moment, there is a Dream Visa program that's available. Navin, you might also be able to give more color on that. But as I believe, there's a 5-year residency visa that is available on a minimum investment of $100,000 into property.
That's correct. That's correct. Not only Indian, any foreigner can invest in properties worth 100,000 or more, and then you do get a 5-year residency visa. This was approved by the government, and that will be the case. So please get in touch with us. We can help you with that whole process if that is of interest to you. And yes, these apartments or villas will qualify that for that too. Another one from Tony from Dubai. Reza, how about the payment plan? How does the payment plan work? What's the deposit and so forth?
Sure. So, so obviously with Crystal Sands, it's complete. So it's payment upfront. With the Six, essentially you're looking at our client base has paid 50% of the value of the property has been paid. So our payments are always tagged to a construction milestone. So it's based on a progress established at the project that you make a milestone payment. So with the Six, essentially our clients have paid pretty much, I think, yeah, they've paid 50% of the purchase price, and the rest will be tagged on construction milestones. At Digana, obviously at this stage, we haven't broken ground, but we expect to break ground in 2 months. And along with that timing, the investors would pay up to 20% and sign their sale and purchase agreement. And then beyond that, it would be based on a construction milestone. And broadly at Digana, it's a 30-month cycle, and you have 10 installment payments of 8% pretty much every quarter.
Thank you. Another one from Tony. Is there a buyback as an exit strategy?
So I'll answer that as well. We haven't, we aren't offering a buyback as an exit strategy. I believe, I mean, our products are, again, we want the investors to understand the risks that they're investing in, understand the upside and the downside. We are there to support our investors in every way. And like I said, we take positions in all our projects as well, but buybacks are not something we are offering at this stage.
Right. Another one from Saranga. Do you provide structural warranties? And if so, for how long?
So structural warranties are typically not provided in obviously by us or by any developers in Sri Lanka, but essentially we have a structural guarantee from the contractors that we engage in the projects. So there is that kind of protection. Sri Lankan engineers also tend to be extremely conservative in terms of structural, I guess, how they design structures. And obviously we use reputed consultants when we do design these projects. So no shortcuts are taken in terms of structure.
Saga from India. What are your views on Indian investors who have already invested in Sri Lanka? They're a bit worried about it and to do some more.
Dinuk, I think that's a one you should answer, since with your perspective.
I mean, I don't think it's just, to be fair, Indian investors. I think a lot of investors, quite frankly, are worried about Sri Lanka and where it's going. Now, I think if you haven't taken a position in Sri Lanka, in various sectors, there are great positions to take. I mean, again, I did it in 2016 in CPG. And my investment in CPG has done really well. Actually, my investments in all the Sri Lankan businesses I've done have done really well, even to this date. So I think if we're looking at the here and now, where the fuel shortages are there, where inflation's there, yes, you're going to worry. But I would, I mean, personally advocate, look at what you think is going to happen in a year's time. I mean, a year ago, people weren't thinking, well, most people weren't thinking this would happen now. So in a year's time, will this all be over or will it be calamity? I think that's, as an external investor, that's what you've got to take. And then from a risk return profile, you've got to go, okay, this is my risk and this is the potential upside that I have. But you know, am I willing to go to this downside? And I think from CPG's perspective, I think, you know, we've tried to highlight what our products have delivered to this date in this volatile environment. So you know, I don't think it's going to get that much worse from now. And if it continues this way and goes up, I mean, a CPG investment is a strong investment to take.
Thanks, Dinuk. One last question. We're going to take the last question now. How inflation has affected the project? What are your future predictions and how are you going to manage the prices without escalating? And what are your strategies to do this?
I think this is a great question, and I think Reza deserves a lot of credit in terms of this and how we've managed it in the current projects. Rez, do you want to explain?
Yes, yeah, great question actually. So inflation is something, I mean, we are constant. So there are two things to this, right? There's devaluation in Sri Lanka and there's a global increase in commodity prices that have affected the construction industry. So again, how have we managed through this? So from a group, I mean, I can give you a few instances. So again, it comes back to having a strong project management and procurement team who understand where to look, how to look, and how to procure effectively within the budgets that we have set ourselves. So we've looked at, obviously, we've looked at sourcing things locally. One thing we've found is, I mean, there are great for example, in terms of furniture, which is obviously a big component of what we do because our projects are turnkey. Previously, where we'd always look outward, we've started to look inward. There are a number of fantastic kind of suppliers and manufacturers who have great capability and great talent in delivering kind of great products. So we've used our procurement team to really look in and find material on the ground in Sri Lanka that we can use, which is of good quality. And the great thing is for us, it's also about we're enabling someone in Sri Lanka also as a supplier or a manufacturer to further themselves, right? And at a time like this, that's so important. So yes, so that kind of really strict cost control management and expertise in procurement helps us to obviously hedge ourselves against inflation in some sense. Separately, we're always on the lookout. We're always looking at trends in terms of pricing. So for example, for Digana, we saw kind of a trend of global steel prices increasing. They have adjusted now, but at that point when we were looking, it was on an upward trajectory. So we made the decision to buy all our steel up front. And again, this comes down to having a supportive board and shareholders because it was a significant investment on our part, but we went ahead and did it. So we pre-bought the entire steel requirement for the project. And that has really helped us because we've seen an escalation of, we saw post purchase of that within 2 months, we saw the devaluation, and then we saw massive price escalation in terms of the steel prices, actually more than 100%. Also, our projects and our products are now sold in USD, so that is essentially an automatic hedge against devaluation, because obviously with the devaluation, the USD prices, the USD that we are sourcing allows us to protect against that risk. So that's, I guess it's strong cost control and really focusing on our procurement skills. And again, with, like I said, because we're quite niche and we don't have large inventory, we are able to source things at a local level. And then obviously having the US dollar pricing hedges us against the devaluation risk.
Thanks, Reza. Thanks so much. All right. What I would like to say is all of you as investors or future home buyers in Sri Lanka should be looking long-term, not today, not next year, not in year 2, but look at 10, 15 years from now. Yes, we all agree Sri Lanka is at the rock bottom, but think about what can happen in the future. And give some thought about what I mentioned earlier. If you do an investment in Sri Lanka right now, what can be the upside? What can be the downside? Can you live with the downside and what that impact is? Most of you have an interest in Sri Lanka. After all, if there is a downside to it, it will be a beautiful, beautiful piece of real estate, which will be very well managed, which you can go and enjoy yourself. We would have sent you emails to each and every one of you who registered for the webinar. Please get in touch with us if you need any information at all, floor plans, pricing, payment plans, whatever you need. Our team will be in touch with you, and feel free to ask any questions. We are more than happy to conduct more Zoom calls on a personalized level, along with the Crystal Property team. Whatever you need, we are here to help you. And thank you so much for joining in and spending your valuable time this evening or afternoon, wherever you might be. Thank you so much again.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, just to wrap up, Navin, thank you very much for organizing this for us as well.